The Civil Rights Movement. The Civil Rights Movement was an extensive movement in the 20th century that comprised of various protests in order to eliminate segregation from the American society. Let's take a look at some history over here. Blacks were considered slaves, not citizens in American society. When people started raising their voices against it, civil war occurred between the North and the South. President Lincoln then issued Emancipation Proclamation in 1863, which outlawed slavery. However, discrimination still prevailed. In 1877, government passed laws like Jim Crow laws that legalized segregation. Furthermore, Plessy v. Ferguson case suggested that separate but equal facilities were not a violation of any amendments. Because of this, many protests occurred. The start of the civil rights movement was when Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat for a white man, which got her arrested in 1955. Aside from this, many other protests occurred, such as the Freedom Riders boycott and the March on Washington in 1963 by MLK. And here is when MLK delivered his famous I Have a Dream speech. The effects of these protests was the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which outlawed segregation and discrimination. Here's Rosa Parks, and here's MLK. Now let's take a look at some visual arts now. The first one I'm going to analyze is Dixie's Cafe by Jacob Lawrence. Here, Lawrence depicts segregation, so we're going to look at some techniques he uses here. The first one to notice is that the figures in the color section are hunched. This shows that how dehumanizing segregation was for the colored people. Also, he shows that the people in the colored section are the same as the people in the white section. This shows that they were basically the same people with the same needs, just with different skin color. Lastly, this visual is not in color but in black and white. What this does, it adds to the gloomy mood of the painting. Next, we're going to analyze Walking by Charles Alston. So here, he shows a bunch of women and a kid walking. So some techniques to notice is that he used vibrant colors and created an abstract painting. The women on the right are shown with angular legs and turned faces, which depicts motion. This shows that the civil rights movement was a purposeful movement that's making a progress with no hesitation and no going back. We also see both women and children in the painting, which shows that everyone united together to create some of the greatest changes in American society. Next, let's analyze a poem now. This one is called Alabama Centennial by Naomi Long Madgen. So basically, this poem shows segregation in American society and how African Americans protested. The poem ends in an optimistic tone, showing that African Americans are hopeful about gaining equality. So let's look at some poetic elements Madgen used in her poem. She writes in line 2, "For 100 years I waited." This use of hyperbole shows that the wait for equality for African Americans felt like eternity. She also writes, "Then a new wind blew and a new voice rode its wings." This use of metaphor shows the struggle of African Americans and the protests they engaged in order to eradicate racial discrimination. Finally, she repeats the word "now" multiple times in her poem. What this repetition does is that it indicates that the blacks are tired of waiting and creates a sense of urgency to depict that the blacks have done their waiting. So, to conclude now, why does this matter? So, the civil rights movement is important because it showed that nothing is impossible and that determination is highly essential. Determination is what led the African Americans conquer all the hardships that came in their way, which enabled them to bring the greatest social changes in America. It shows that nothing is impossible, and if we want to make a change, we have to get up and we have to face all the hardships, and we have to just endure all the pain that comes on our way. That's my bibliography, and thanks for watching.